I was still wearing my work boots when I bought the ticket, covered in dust and sweat from another 12-hour day on the site. Most days I barely made it home in time to see Emily before she went to bed. Construction work wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, at least, enough to keep the lights on and the fridge stocked. Barely. I wasn't even planning to buy a ticket that night. The line at the gas station was long, and I had about $8 left in my wallet. Something in me, though, told me to grab one. Maybe it was just habit. Maybe it was desperation. I remember thinking, what's another $2 gone? I stuffed it in my jacket pocket and forgot about it until the next morning. When I checked the numbers, my hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. $32 million. $32 million. I must have read those numbers 100 times, convinced I was misreading them. Then I laughed, a deep, shocked laugh that echoed through our tiny kitchen. For a second, I just stood there, staring at the peeling linoleum, thinking, this has to be a mistake. Michael? What's going on? Emily's voice floated down the hallway. She was still in her robe, her hair messy, eyes half closed from sleep. I said, my voice cracking, we won. We actually won. $32 million. She blinked at me. What are you talking about? I handed her the ticket and my phone. When the reality sank in, she let out a scream so loud I was sure the neighbors would call the cops. She threw her arms around me, crying and laughing at the same time. We're free, she said, breathless. We can finally have the life we've dreamed of, Michael. I hugged her back, but something in me felt off. Over the past year, Emily had grown distant. Too many girls' weekends, with her coworkers, hours spent texting someone on her phone, smiling at messages I never got to see. I told myself it was just stress. Money problems had been weighing on us both. Maybe now, with this win, we could finally fix things. But as I watched her dance around the kitchen, her robe slipping off one shoulder, I felt this flicker of fear. What if this money didn't fix anything? What if it only made the cracks bigger? She grabbed my face with both hands. This changes everything, Michael. Everything. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. I told myself this was our second chance, that with all this weight off our shoulders, we could go back to who we used to be. But even in that moment of euphoria, part of me couldn't shake the thought. What if she's already halfway out the door? The first week after the win was a blur. Our phones didn't stop buzzing. Family we hadn't heard from in years. Coworkers suddenly acting like best friends, all of them offering congratulations. Emily seemed to love the attention. She started wearing makeup even when she had nowhere to go and spent hours on online shopping sites. Can you believe this is our life now? She said one night, swirling a glass of wine while scrolling through luxury handbags. We could finally get that beach house in Florida, maybe take a trip to Europe. I smiled, but something felt off. It was like she was planning a future I wasn't really in. Then, 1 week after the winnings hit our account, she sat me down at the kitchen table. No smile, no sparkle in her eyes. Just a pale, serious expression I hadn't seen before. Michael, we need to talk, she said softly. My stomach tightened. What's wrong? She hesitated, staring at her hands. I'm not happy. I haven't been for a long time. It's not about the money, I swear. I don't think I can do this anymore. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Do what? This marriage. For a moment, all I could do was stare at her. We had just become millionaires. I thought this would save us. Instead, she was walking out. You're serious? I said, my voice sharper than I intended. Tears welled in her eyes. Michael, this isn't about you. It's me. I felt trapped for years. The money, it just made me realize I need to find myself. I wanted to scream, to ask her who she'd been texting late at night, who she'd been with during those girls' weekends. But all I said was, so what now? The next day, I got my answer. A knock at the door, and a man in a suit handed me divorce papers. My name scrawled across the top like a death sentence. She wanted half of everything, including the lottery winnings. I stood there in the doorway, stunned. Half of the winnings? I grabbed my phone and called Jake. He'd been my friend since high school and now worked as a lawyer in town. Jake, I need your help, I said, my voice shaking. Talk to me, he replied. And just like that, the war began. Jake came over that same night. We sat in my living room, the divorce papers spread across the coffee table like they were evidence in a crime scene. She's asking for half of the winnings, I said, still unable to believe the words coming out of my mouth. Jake glanced at the papers and shook his head. Typical. She's claiming marital property. But we'll fight it. Don't sign anything yet. I nodded, but my mind wasn't just on the money. It was on Emily. The Emily who used to stay up late just to have dinner with me when I got home from the job site. The Emily who once cried when I surprised her with a weekend trip to the mountains. That Emily was gone, and I didn't know when I had lost her. A couple of days later, I found out the truth. It was Lisa, a friend of Emily's, who slipped up. She called to check on me, But halfway through the conversation, she sighed and said, "I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't think she'd actually leave you for him." I froze. Leave me for who? There was a long pause on the other end. You didn't know? Lisa, I said slowly. Who is it? She hesitated, but I could hear the guilt in her voice. Ben, that guy from her office. They've been seeing each other during those girls' weekends. I didn't even say goodbye. I hung up and sat there, numb, the phone still in my hand. Suddenly, everything clicked. The late-night texts, the weekends away, the way she smiled at her phone like it was some private joke. It felt like my chest was caving in. I thought about the years I spent breaking my back in the sun just to provide for us. All the times I believed her when she said she was just stressed. Now, I realized she had already left me long before the lottery win. When I told Jake, he didn't look surprised. I was worried about this, he said. She's not just after the money. She's after your future security. But we've got something she doesn't know about. What's that? The irrevocable trust your dad set up before he passed. Remember? I blinked. The one he used for his retirement savings? Jake smiled. Exactly. We can place your winnings into that trust. It's legally protected. Emily can fight all she wants, but she won't get a dime of the lottery money. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. I might have lost Emily, but I wasn't about to lose everything else. The first court hearing felt like stepping into enemy territory. Emily sat at the other table, her hair perfectly done, dressed in a sharp black blazer that screamed confidence. She didn't look at me, not once. Beside her was a lawyer I'd never met, some aggressive guy with a reputation for winning messy divorces. Jake leaned over to me and whispered, "Don't let her face rattle you. She's all show. We've got the law on our side." When the judge entered, the room went silent. Emily's lawyer wasted no time. "Your Honor, the lottery ticket was purchased during the marriage. As such, my client is entitled to half of the winnings. We're talking about marital assets here." I clenched my fists under the table. Jake calmly stood up. "Your Honor," he began, "while it's true that the ticket was purchased during the marriage, the winnings have since been placed into an irrevocable trust. This trust is not subject to division, as it is a separate entity and not part of Mr. Thompson's personal assets." Emily's lawyer scoffed. A convenient maneuver after the fact. Jake smiled faintly. "Actually, the trust was established years ago by Mr. Thompson's late father. All funds deposited there are shielded by its terms. We've provided the documentation to prove this." The judge nodded and glanced at the stack of papers Jake had prepared. "I see. I'll review the trust agreement." Emily's face tightened. She whispered something to her lawyer, who frowned but kept quiet. The next few hours were grueling. Emily's attorney tried every angle, claiming emotional damages, arguing that the winnings were part of our shared future plans, even painting me as a selfish husband who was hiding money to hurt his wife. But Jake never flinched. He brought out the trust documents, detailed financial records, and even statements from my father's old attorney confirming that the trust had been active long before the lottery win. By the end of the session, the judge's tone shifted. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, "you are entitled to an equitable division of the marital property, the home, shared bank accounts, and the vehicle. However, the lottery winnings deposited into the trust do not fall under that category. The trust stands." Emily's lawyer tried to protest, but it was over. The ruling was clear. She'd get half of the house, the savings, and the car, but not a single penny from the lottery. As we walked out of the courtroom, Jake clapped me on the shoulder. "Told you we'd win this round." I glanced back at Emily. She looked furious, her face pale. For the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand. The court ruling came down on a Friday. By Saturday night, Emily was on my doorstep. I heard the banging before I even saw her. Loud, frantic knocks that echoed down the hallway of my apartment building. When I opened the door, the smell of alcohol hit me first. Emily stood there, her mascara smeared, a half-empty wine bottle clutched in one hand. "You ruined me," she shouted, her voice cracking. "You stole my future, Michael. Everything we built. Gone because you had to be stubborn." I leaned against the doorframe, keeping my voice steady. "I didn't steal anything from you, Emily. You tried to take what wasn't yours." She laughed bitterly. "Not mine. I was your wife. You think this money just magically belongs to you?" She stumbled forward, pointing the neck of the bottle at me. "You're pathetic. You'll die alone with your stupid millions." I wanted to yell back, to tell her about Ben, to list every lie and betrayal. But I didn't. I just stood there, letting her words fall flat. She hated that I wasn't reacting. "Ben left me," she blurted suddenly, her voice breaking. "Did you know that?" The second the judge ruled, he stopped answering my calls. "He doesn't want me anymore. Nobody does." I stared at her, trying to feel something, anger, pity, anything. But all I felt was this hollow relief. She had made her bed, and now she was lying in it. You need to leave, Emily, I said quietly. This isn't your home anymore. She looked at me, her eyes glassy, as if she couldn't process the words. You'll regret this, she whispered. I'll make you regret it. I didn't respond. I just closed the door, the latch clicking softly as her muffled sobs echoed in the hallway. For a few seconds, I leaned my forehead against the door, listening to her footsteps stagger away. It hurt, of course it did. I'd loved her once, more than anything. But the woman outside that door wasn't the Emily I married. She was a stranger. And I knew, finally, and completely, that I was free. After Emily's meltdown, the silence that followed felt almost surreal. No more late-night arguments. No more constant anxiety about what she was doing or who she was with. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Jake came over the next week with a six-pack, grinning like we'd just won the Super Bowl. You've got 32 million reasons to smile, buddy, he said, kicking off his shoes and flopping onto my couch. So what's the plan now? The plan. I hadn't really thought about it until then. For so long, my life had been about survival, clocking in, breaking my back, paying bills. Suddenly, I had the freedom to actually dream. Over the next month, I sat down with Jake and a financial advisor he recommended. We drew up plans for investments, a mix of real estate, stocks, and some long-term savings accounts. Your money should be working for you, not sitting around, Jake said, pointing to charts and projections. I decided to buy a few properties in town, small, rundown places I could renovate and rent out. I wasn't ready to walk away from construction completely. Building things, seeing something broken become whole again, that was who I was. I also donated to a few causes I believed in, local shelters, a community food bank, even funding a vocational program for kids who wanted to learn trades. It felt good to give back, especially when I remembered what it was like to be young and struggling. One afternoon, I stood outside a property I'd just bought, an old brick building with cracked windows and peeling paint. It looked rough, but I could see its potential. As I walked through the dusty rooms, I realized I wasn't just investing in real estate. I was rebuilding myself, piece by piece. Life felt lighter. I wasn't worried about Emily anymore, or the way she tried to rip everything from me. I wasn't looking over my shoulder. Instead, I started meeting new people, friends who didn't care about my bank account, women who didn't have secrets hidden behind late-night texts. I wasn't in a rush to fall in love again, but I could finally imagine a future without fear. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving. I was living, and it felt damn good to know that every decision from here on out was mine, no strings attached. It had been about 6 months since the divorce was finalized when my phone rang with a number I almost didn't recognize. I nearly let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. Michael. The voice on the other end was soft, shaky. Emily. I paused for a moment before replying. What do you want, Emily? There was silence, then a sob. I made a mistake, she said, her voice cracking. I don't know what I was thinking. Ben's gone. Everyone's gone. And I can't stop thinking about you. I leaned back in my chair, staring out the window of my new office. Emily, you made your choice. You left. I know, she said quickly, desperation creeping into her voice. But I still love you. I always did. I was just confused. Please, Michael, can we try again? We were happy once. We can be happy again. For a moment, I almost laughed. The irony of it all, how quickly she wanted to come back once the money wasn't in her grasp. Emily, I said slowly, the person I married doesn't exist anymore. You destroyed that when you betrayed me. I was stupid, she cried. But I can change. We can start fresh. We don't even have to talk about the past. I chuckled, but there was no humor in it. There is no fresh start, Emily. Not with you. I've built a new life, one I'm proud of. I don't need to look back. She sniffled, her breathing uneven. So that's it. After everything we've been through, you're just done? Yeah, I said firmly. I'm done. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. But it's not me. There was silence, then a soft, broken goodbye. I hung up and set my phone on the desk, a surprising feeling washing over me. Not anger, not sadness, but relief. It was like a door that had been stuck halfway open for years finally closed for good. I took a deep breath, leaned back in my chair, and smiled. For the first time in as long as I could remember, my life was truly mine.